Hello guys and welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be building a gaming PC. Obviously it's not a car. So the specs are a Ryzen 5 5500, a pallet, is it pallet or pallet? I'm not sure. 1660 Ti. Then we have a 550 watt power supply, and the motherboard was basically the cheapest I could find. It has 16 gigabytes of RAM, DDR4 at 3200 the clock speed, the max clock speed, and 1 terabyte NVMe. So this should be a pretty good build. I hope you enjoy. Hello guys and welcome to the channel. Today I'm not really gonna say much, I'm just gonna dive right into it. We are building a gaming PC and the specs are currently as follows. Here we have ourselves a Ryzen 5500. As you can see, it's a beautiful CPU on the AM4 platform. Just look at that. Amazing, isn't it? So AM4 platform, as you can see, the pins are sweet, straight. That is good, that is proper. Only thing I'm upset about is that I didn't get my Ryzen 5 sticker, but it is what it is. Over here we have 16 gigabytes DDR4 RAM, as you can see, 3200 CL, so it should be good for our gaming experience. A 1 terabyte NVMe, Crucial E100, sweet. And then we have the motherboard. For the motherboard we have the A520M A Pro. Now the motherboard, CPU and a RAM I actually got as a upgrade kit. So basically they all came in one package. As you can see, there it is. Beautiful piece of hardware over here. Now this may not be the best motherboard out there, number one. Number two, it doesn't have Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. However, it's still a solid option for those of you who are hoping to build a system at an affordable price. Next thing to show off is the GPU. Now I went with the Palette, is it Palette or Pilot, whatever the spelling is, the GTX 1660 Ti. Now I got this bad boy off of Facebook Marketplace. Yes, there are some good deals on the platform. However, you should always be careful, because just as many as there's as much legit sellers there as there are scam artists, so you need to be careful. Oh, look at that, look at that. Now it is a little bit dusty, but I did stress test it, and I should remind myself to put up the edit for the stress tests. I used Furmark on my current system. Actually, I'll stress test the system and show you guys what it's capable of. As you can see, beautiful piece of hardware there. We've got an HDMI and what's that called? DisplayPort. This is DVI. Has anyone ever used DVI? If you have, let me know what kind of quality to expect from that, and if it's worth it to try it out. Now we have our GPU, CPU, RAM, motherboard. All that I need to show off to you guys is the power supply. I think power supply and the case. Let me just put this away. Imagine if I drop this and it dies. That would suck. That would turn my day into, yeah. Over here we have the power supply. It is a 550 watt Lux AeroCool power supply with a bronze rating of 80 plus. Now I decided to go with this one because it was pretty cheap where I got it from. It was only, with shipping, it was only about 800 rand, so to be exact 798. Now this should provide much needed power to the system, and not to mention it, looks it looks pretty darn good, solid black. I don't personally, I don't like RGB. I just feel like it's unnecessary. I mean, yeah, it looks good for social media and everything, but personally, I don't feel like it's necessary. So here's our power supply, and then now time for the case. So for the case, I went with an Aura GC6. Oh boy, my studio is a little too small to show the case, but I will attach pictures of it once the build is ready. Aura GC6, it's got 2 front fans and 1 exhaust fan. They are RGB, and I got it. Basically it was returned back to the store, and so I was able to get it at a decent discount, and it only cost me around, what was it, 500 rand or something? Yeah, 499. I got it for 499, so I figured, hey, might as well. It's still a good case. So yeah. Okay, with that, I think I've done enough talking, so let's just jump right into the PC building. First, I'm going to install the CPU. I just like to install the CPU first. Gonna crack this bad boy open. Now, when you're installing the CPU, there are a couple of things that you wanna keep in mind. So when installing the CPU, on this motherboard, as you can see, there is a little white corner over here, and there's a little gold diamond, no, not diamond, triangle on the CPU. What you want to do is first raise the latch, drop the CPU in. Now the CPU does not require any force to seat it. Actually, the pins will fit into the holes themselves. Just drop it in there, wiggle it. Personally, I like to wiggle it a little bit to make sure that it's not sliding out, so that I know it's a perfect fit. And then you just drop the little arm, and there you go. That's your CPU in place. Next comes the RAM. Now we only have 1 stick of RAM because it is 16 gigabytes, and you put it in the second slot. Just gonna pop that bad boy in there, line it up, and then just, the RAM requires so much force. I am forever uncomfortable when it comes to installing it. I don't think I would ever get used to the process. Lord have mercy. Okay, I think it's in. Nope. Yeah, never gonna get used to it. I don't think I ever will. And now it is time to install the NVMe. So I got this little toolbox from Take-A-Lot. It's got like, I don't know, 100 and somewhat bits in it, and a bunch of other neat little tools. So that's the tool that I'm going to be using. So your motherboard should come with a set of screws over here for the NVMe, and I'm just going to pop it in there first of all. After popping it in there, I'm just gonna open this up, grab 1 screw there, and then the correct bit, and then we can start screwing in the NVMe. Now do not worry, as this does bend down a little bit, and also if it so happens that your NVMe is shorter, because it does come in different sizes, you can actually remove this pin over here and move it to different slots. for the size of the NVMe that you have. So I'm just gonna do this. I don't like having my screwdriver near the motherboard because if it falls, it could damage some very delicate components, and then there goes the motherboard. Feel me? So just put that down there, put this here. I like to twist it clockwise until I hear the threads fall into place, just to make sure I have it upright, and then start screwing. And you don't need to screw this thing very tightly, just so long as you just screw it until you feel as though your screwdriver is gonna start slipping, and then you stop. Like it's gonna start skipping the thread, then you stop. Then that's the RAM, the CPU, the RAM, and your storage set in. Now all that's missing is to put on the cooler. Now with this cooler, if I were, actually, as you can see, the cooler has some thermal paste on it already, so there's no need to apply that, which is perfect for beginners. But these over here have to be removed. I don't know if you can see clearly there. See these black brackets over here? They have to go. You have to get those out. Now you don't want to be too forceful with anything that you do on this motherboard, because motherboards are delicate pieces of tech, and you don't wanna, the problem isn't necessarily that you will break something by unscrewing it. The problem can come from you using so much force that you lose control of your tool. That tool flies off and it damages something else. That's one of the likeliest scenarios that will happen, as if like you're using too much force to turn the screw, then it slips out of your hand and you hit one of these capacitors over here, for example, and now you have to go and buy a new motherboard. Even though this isn't the most expensive motherboard on the market or the best, hitting it and breaking it is still gonna hurt. Now, once I have removed those brackets, I can place my cooler like so. However, the way that this motherboard is gonna sit in my system is like so. As you can see, this will be where the IO shield goes, which is right here, meaning that it's gonna be upright in this direction, like so. Yes, that can come off. However, I do not want my cooler to sit, the way my cooler would sit is like so. And as you can see, the AMD logo is on the side. I don't want that. I want the AMD logo to be up here. However, the orientation of the screws and the holes on the motherboard simply do not align. I don't know if you can see it, but as you can see, if I put one here, that's just not gonna fit. Let me do this. See the hole there? As you can see, that leaves a gap. I would have to put it like so in order for it to fit. So I'm gonna do a little modification. Now if you do this modification carefully, you don't risk breaking anything. However, if you are careless and not careful, that's when things get a bit dicey. So the first thing we're gonna do is, you see these screws underneath the AMD logo? We are going to take those off. We have those screws. We're just gonna take them out. It's important not to rush because we don't want to be stripping any screws, because it's just not good practice in any ways. I'm gonna let that fall there. Now for the next screw. There we go. These are the two screws. I'm just gonna put them somewhere safe because we do not want to lose them. Then now comes the most uncomfortable part, in my opinion. We have to remove this plastic. As you can see, can kind of shift around now. However, we want to remove it completely. So now it's time to, oh Lord have mercy, just basically almost as if we're breaking it, which I don't like, which I really don't like, but it can come off. Okay, all right, that was a lot simpler than in the past. So as you can see, we have our fan, and as we discussed originally, it would sit like this, right? And these little nubs over here is where the AMD logo will go. So what we have to do is actually take off the fan, rotate it, and put it back on. So that's what we're gonna do. We have these 4 screws over here, and yeah, just gonna take those out. Make sure that you're always using the correct size bit, or else you can risk stripping the screws, and that's just never a good thing. Here, now you don't need to stress about taking this fan off because it doesn't have any thermal paste underneath, unlike the bottom. Also, keep in mind that there is thermal paste over here and that you don't want to interfere with it, or else you yourself will have to repaste it. Don't be like me, be more careful. That's 3 screws. Now for the last one. And so, like I said, we are trying to orientate the fan this way, so that it stands upright when we put it on our motherboard, so that the logo, stays upright when we have it on our motherboard. As you can see, just gonna do that. Simple way of remembering it is that you are trying to align these top nubs where you're going to screw your sort of housing or case or whatever back on, and your numbers should be, the serial number here should be upright, so you can just put that there like so. Align it back. As you can see, the screw holes over here are pretty well aligned, and then now I'm just going to screw it back. I don't like to fully tighten the screws just yet. I like to just basically thread them in first to make sure that my fit is accurate, and I like to do it diagonally so that there's even, how can I say this, even alignment, so to speak, so that the alignment is even. And as you can see, you don't have to tighten it a crazy amount, just enough until it feels solid. Like, yeah, I've gotten this decently tight, because remember, these things are pretty delicate and you are not performing construction over here, so you have to have a rather, I wouldn't say fragile hand, but you gotta treat these things with, be careful. It's better to slightly, take it easy. Don't overdo it. Oh goodness, my camera work sucks, but we will improve. All right, so yeah, there we go. Now that we have that, we can just pop this back on. Just take it, align it, and just sort of like push it together. Mercy. I have anxieties about this. Lord have mercy. Okay, just going to make sure that everything is aligned somewhat decently well before I just crack it into place like a chiropractor with someone's spine. Just gonna, come on, just gonna Come on. Seriously. Dude, like seriously. Okay. Maybe I'm being too delicate, but better to be too delicate than too rough and break something. Ah, well, there we go. It's in now. Now, I can put back the screws into this top area over here. Just swapping the bits. I like that the screwdriver is magnetic, so I can have that little thing. Gonna put that there, and then screw it back in. Make sure it's aligned on the inside there. Yeah, I think it's good enough. Just start screwing. And then I haven't fully screwed it in, so I'm just gonna thread in the second screw and start screwing that one in as well. A lot of PC building is just simply not breaking stuff. However, that can be a challenge when you have parts that are this delicate. I just realized that I didn't actually pop in the cooler properly, so now I have to basically take it back out, take the screws back out, and then push this thing in, because as you can see, it's actually falling off. It's actually just falling off, so I need to pop it back in, and there has to be a proper click. Okay, just be brave, dude. Okay, so I'm gonna try and align the inside part. As you can see, there's a oh goodness, you can't see, there's a clip over here, I think. Where's my autofocus? I don't have autofocus, what the heck. Anyway, there's a clip over here that you have to push it into, and that should seat this bad boy in. There's one, maybe 2, 3. Now it's just the final 4th one that needs to be pushed into place. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, now I'm just squeezing it to make sure that it's proper. There we are. Now I can screw it in. Like when it comes to screwing this in, it's almost like you're using just your fingers to tighten it. If it's too tight for you to, if you feel like you're gonna skip the thread, or rather the place of your bit in when you're just using your 2 fingers like this, then you're tightening it too much, dude. It's too much tightness. Right, now it's time to fit it's time to fit the CPU cooler and the motherboard together. So make sure that this back plate that's on the back of the motherboard, that's supposed to be on the back of the motherboard, is actually on there, right? Then just lay it flat. But first I'm gonna clean the CPU to make sure that there's no dirt or debris, so that just to clean it, dude. So when you're cleaning electronics, you have to use alcohol, but I have this, it's methylated spirit. It's good enough, it works just as well. I'm just gonna take my cloth, put it up here, and just shake it upwards a little bit, so that there's just, a damp area on my tissue over here, and then I'm just gonna clean the CPU. Just to make sure that the oils from my fingers as I was touching the CPU are gone. And that we have a clean surface to work with. Just give it a few seconds to let the alcohol vaporize and dry. While I'm there, might as well try to clean up my hands. Oh, it's good enough. Now, the CPU cooler, we first have to swap it. And so, as you can see now, when I put the CPU cooler down in its place, I'm being as careful as possible. Now you might be wondering, where does this plug in? It plugs in just at the top over there, but we'll get to that later. For now, let us focus on plugging this in. First, you want to screw. You can screw in the whichever one you choose. Do like a couple of turns, maybe 3 or 4. Then try to do the same amount of turns diagonally. So why diagonally? So that there's an even pressure across the CPU. Because if you do it on these two sides, the CPU is probably just going to be standing like that. If you do it on these two sides, it's going to be standing like that. And the adhesion might not be as even as it should be. So you just want to do it diagonally. So I did like 3 or 4 turns over there. 1, 2. Actually 3 or 4 was too many because now it's risen on its side. Let me show you what I mean. Over here it's kind of risen up, making it impossible to screw it in. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna loosen this one over here, which I did until this one has contact over there. So I can just do like screw it in twice, you know, screw it in twice. I know, just be careful with it. There's no need to rush. I hope you've given yourself an adequate enough time. Now, after screwing it in slightly, you can just quickly see. Ooh, that's not good. We don't want that. No, sorry, we do not want that. Actually, the screwing in of this thing here has to be done on a flat surface. So let me just get that prepared. So like I was saying, you want there to be contact between these two places. You're probably going to have to push it down a little bit. Just a little bit, not too much, just a little. And once you have it down there, you're going to want to screw it in. Now, it's going to feel like it's a lot of pressure because the CPU has to be seated pretty firmly so that the thermal paste can get rid of any and all gaps that may exist between the CPU and the CPU cooler, because that's the point of the thermal paste. It's so that thermal conductivity can be a lot more efficient, because air gaps kind of hold in heat in a way. Have you ever, so air is a bit of an insulator. Have you ever like been baking and shoved your hand inside the oven? Even though the air inside the oven is about 300 and whatever degrees, it doesn't burn you. Reason being that air is a poor conductor of heat. Hence why we use metal heat sinks and not just let it be cooled by the air. So you just want to keep tightening it in a crisscross pattern. And I'm not doing that, but that's what you should be doing. You should be tightening it in a crisscross pattern until just, you know, like 2 turns at a time, just to make sure that everything is as evenly pressured as possible. I'm just gonna skip this so that now when you are screwing again with just maybe even 3 fingers or just 4, don't use your whole humanly force when you're screwing it in. Just screw until you feel like, okay, this does not want to turn anymore. You see how my bit is almost sliding out? Now you know that you have put in the correct amount of pressure and you've screwed it in properly. See, this one still turns, and now it's not turning anymore. That's perfect. That's what we want. We don't want to try and screw it in like we're screwing in a tire or anything. That's perfect. And then that is also perfect. All right, perfect. Now we have our CPU cooler installed. Just a quick test. You can just lift it. Don't do this unless you are very confident in what you've done. I'm pretty confident because this is like my third PC that I'm building. I know, I'm already getting ahead of myself, but it's fine. Now, when it comes to connecting the CPU fan's little cable, what you need to do is on your motherboard, look for the connector that says CPU fan 1. As you can see, it has 4 pins and this has 4 holes. So you just make sure that you orientate it correctly. Okay, and now it's time for arguably one of, if not... So the way that I install the IO shield is first I place it on my motherboard as carefully as I can to make sure that it stays there. Then I will try to ever so gently, and I mean ever so gently, just squeeze it in there. I know that everything fits well. You can just sort of push the motherboard a bit so it almost protrudes, and then I can use my fingers to pop the IO shield into place. To finally install the IO shield, and I screwed in the motherboard. I did that off camera because I needed both hands. Darn it, that's not how a power supply goes in. Okay, the power supply goes in through here first. Just make sure there's no cables getting stuck there in the back. For example, the power cable for the fan. Now, this case was pretty cheap, affordable. Say what you will. Found it on a good deal. And yeah, so it's not gonna have all the bells and whistles, but for example, the RGB of the fan can't be changed in color, so it's probably gonna come out as a rainbow. So that's why they have those MOLEC connection. So with the PSU, you wanna make sure that these holes up here, down here, and all that align with the holes of your CPU, your PSU, I mean, so that you don't put it upside down. So for me, they do align. So we've got that bottom hole, top one, this one over here, and that one there, and I'm just gonna screw them in. All right, got the bad boy screwed in, and now it is time to not yet, we're not gonna put in the GPU just yet. The GPU is gonna be the last thing. Right now what we need to figure out is the case front IOs. So we've got our audio, we've got, what is that, the USB and the USB again. This is the 3.0 USB, and then we've got these tricky little guys over here for connecting your, your switches. For example, this one here connects your power switch. This one here is for your your reset switch, or is it HDD? Yeah, your HDD LED, power LED, so on and so forth. Reset switch, reset button. I like to bring them from the back of the I/O and bring them up through here. Helps give it a much cleaner look. Just gonna grab that. And if you're wondering, well, how do I know what is what, where to connect what? Oh yeah, by the way, you connect it on this little guy. Alright, so these front I/O connections, such as the USB 3.0, the audio, and the USB connection, are just gonna be put up here. So I have my switches and LED lights for the powering on and resetting connected to this. And by the way, the port for that is called JFP1. Oh, it's down here at the bottom, so you may not see it. Poor lighting. Now that I have installed my Windows, as you can see, it's on 100% load and it is performing very well. I'm quite impressed with this card. Compared to my XFX, the XFX runs pretty hot, but it's still a good card. So yeah, as you can see, I'm pushing out about 104 frames. Now, yes, resolution is at 720, but that's just my monitor. However, as you can see, it's staying relatively cool. So that's awesome. Now over here, just to be extra careful, I am running both Crystal Disk Info and HDD Sentinel, just to make sure that the hard drive is 100% healthy. I don't want to have any issues later down the line.